and it's an urban congregation, and they've got a tree in their narthex. And on the tree are family names. And those are all the tithers in the church. So part of who they are as a congregation is we are a tithing church. So this is a poor inner city church. And these people tithe. It has nothing to do with how much money you have or make. It has to do with what you do with the money that you have. And they put them up on this tree as leaves. And this is the foundation of their church and the fruits of their church. And people are proud to have their names up there. So very different, yeah.
Well, my husband's stepfather belonged to a church in northern Minnesota where they were assessed.
Oh, yeah.
The church members got together and they had to pay their dues.
Their dues, yeah.
How much each farmer should pay.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, dues, assessment, that's the way the church benevolence used to be. You used to assign a dollar amount for every member you had in the church. And then that's how much money you had to pay. It was not up to a congregation to determine that. You were assessed that. So yeah. And now times are different. And what happened was we got into the dues, the obligation, the duty, instead of the joy of doing it and essential to life, and we changed the meaning of it. So when it became a duty, even though the dollar amount would be the same, there's a difference between my desiring to give it out of a faith relationship with God, and I choose to give it to God for all the right reasons, and now I'm giving it to the church, and I can resent that. And now they're taking it from me rather than me giving it to them. That creates a whole other set of problems. I sure wish we could be Mormon when it came to stewardship. For at least 1 month a year, let's be Mormon. Bring in your W-2, I'll assign you a number, and be done with it. It's over with. Good grief, we can buy Pepsi. They got Coke, we'll take Pepsi. You know? What could we do? You know, it's the old thing, it's the old saying. It's not that we don't have enough money. We got plenty of money. It's just nobody wants to give it. So, yeah, I mean, we could pay off our $1.6 million without having to have it matched if we became a tithing congregation. But another subject. But anyway, giving is important for life, I think, is Paul's point to Timothy. What about... all right, the sermon Sunday, 2 Timothy 2. Any comments on any of that? If you don't remember, that's all right. I don't either. Last Sunday, put on the good soldier of Christ Jesus. Be a soldier, be a farmer, be an athlete, so on and so forth. 2 Timothy chapter 2. One of the issues here is that I read in this is just be careful that you don't get wrapped up in stuff that just isn't that important. People will try to entangle you in all kinds of stuff in their life that can direct you away from what is important and essential to your life. And just be careful with that, I think, is Paul's advice. That we can get so distracted, especially at verses 14 and beyond, the wrangling over words, the profane chatter, spreads like gangrene. Just that kind of stuff. And so, one of the things that I teach here to leadership is that the way in which we deal with the chatter and the words is to direct the words where they belong. So rather than allowing that chatter to go on, if someone's upset with me, instead of listening on and trying to make the person happy by defending me or trying to understand who I am, or that's just the way Bill is, or he's a little goofy in that way, you just say, why don't you go talk to Bill? The way to stop quarrelsome chatter is speak directly to the source. And so it's just Don't talk about someone, talk to them. It goes away. Now I can deal with this, we can come to an understanding, we can be clear because we're back and forth, we're not working through a different person. Just talk to people. We're so afraid to do that. But that's why, you know, part of my personality style is to be passive aggressive. And so I've had to wrestle with that in terms of being more assertive in my own life and talking rather than behaving in a way where other people should pick up my signals and therefore do what I want them to do. So many people wish I'd become more passive aggressive, but I choose for the most part not to. Some people think I am when I'm not, because they think I should get upset at stuff that I'm not upset over. And that's always an interesting one for me. That makes me think. But part of it is just, how do I be truthful and honest with what I want to say and say it to the people that I need to say it to? So one of the things as a pastor I had to learn is that on the Sunday after Christmas, when you faithful people show up, I don't preach to you about all the unfaithful people who aren't there and yell at you when I'm talking to somebody who isn't there, but I'm yelling at you for them. And you know, that's the kind of thing we do. And we triangulate, we bring other people into our stuff. And I think one way of doing it is just to be right up front, speak to them directly.
I had somebody ask me a question after Sunday morning, your sermon. If there's something going on, people are criticizing Pastor Bill, could you say that?
I assume that they're always criticizing.
What do you do about that? And I said, I don't know what you do anything. But somebody was concerned about that.
So I just assume that as being normal.
Yeah, that's what I
Any position that you're in where you're the most responsible, you're going to get criticism. So, of course. You know, what I just ask is for the person, if it's, you know, if you just don't like something I said, you don't have to come tell me that. If you want to, that's fine. You can gripe to somebody else. What I don't want to have happen is if somebody says something to you, and then you take responsibility for fixing it. That's what I don't want to do, because that's how the conflicts get going. That starts a forest fire. And that's why I always spend time with all my council leadership saying it's not your responsibility to fix these issues. It's your responsibility to deal with them in an appropriate manner so they get handled effectively and appropriately without it getting out of control. So this quarrelsome talk was divisive in the church. He lists a couple people here that have left the church and have taken people with them over their quarrelsome talk. And Paul just says, don't engage in that. Don't get wrapped up in that. If you get wrapped up in that, you're going to get distracted from what you're really called to do. Go about your work. The soldier reports to his commanding officer. He doesn't get involved in all the other stuff. He reports, and that's what's essential and to do. And people will distract us. And if I get distracted by every criticism that comes my way, I'm going to accomplish very little. So I have to let it go. Any of you know a better way to do it? Bart, you know a better way?
No, I don't know. I'll go back to last Sunday. I had it wrong. I thought you were stating that your weak flanks were being attacked and that you weren't sure how to handle it.
Oh, I didn't know how to handle it. No. What it is that when I get physically tired, when I get emotionally spent, I find that I'm weaker for attacks when they come. It's easier for me to begin to quarrel. It's easier for me to get defensive. It's easier for me to engage in stuff than when I'm more rested and the like. So it's not that I don't know how to handle it, it's that I'm more, when I get surprised, when I'm weak, it's like after a holiday season is when I get sick. My defenses are down. Either that or they're so hot that I'm just, if you come at me with any question, I'm going to boom, boom, boom. And then I become the one speaking the quarrelsome words.
Because that was a lot of discussion among sometimes with our neighbors.
Huh?
We were kind of worried about.
Worried about me?
I was going to have an appointment
All right. Yeah, good night's sleep helped a lot. It's just, you know, the way in which I do sermons up, you probably know because they're so here, there, and everywhere, but I don't write them out. So when you don't write them out, it means all this information has to be going in up here. So when I've got that many sermons in a row all floating around up here, it's an exhausting process. It really is. And if I was doing the same thing over and over again, it still takes a lot out of me because I'm an introvert, but it's not exhausting in the same way as having to create this, 3 days in a row. That's exhausting for me. So emotionally I'm spent, which makes me susceptible both to physical illness and I think emotional things that come my way in terms of quarrelsome words, as Paul would say. And that's when I have to recognize that. Well, I was just saying, I recognize that in myself, and I have to cut myself some slack, and you have some responses ready so that if someone comes at me, I can say things like, that's really interesting. Can we set up an appointment and talk about that tomorrow? Rather than engaging in it in the moment. So over the years, I've learned some responses that I can make to get me through these times. But I'm just saying, they can be very discouraging. It's like, when's this going to end? I've had enough of this. I'm through the pain. Let's get to happy times. It's not just the services themselves. It's all the emotional stuff of being with families and planning and all those kinds of things.
But you know when to laugh. I think you do know that.
Pardon me?